They have emerged most recently as mainstay of treatment of non-valvular AF and intercoagulation and venous thromboembolism. And there are trials that showcase superiority of DOACs in comparison with vitamin K antagonists with better side effect profile. And this has resulted in proportionate increase in the usage of DOACs over vitamin K antagonists. Recently, there have been sporadic reports that have emerged indicating association of DOAC usage with pericardial effusion, a rare but serious adverse event with high morbidity. There were 6 individual DOAC trials, in which the incidence of reported pericardial bleeding was found to be 0.02%, associated with all the 4 marketed DOACs. Individual case reports, small case series, case reviews have also been reported. In most of the cases, patients had presumed predisposing factors such as acute or chronic kidney disease, malignancy, or drug-drug interactions. The objective of this particular study was to assess the incidence, patient characteristics, outcomes, and predisposing factors of pericardial effusion associated with DOAC use as compared with pericardial effusion associated with vitamin K antagonists or without any oral anticoagulation. Coming to the methods, this was a retrospective case control study of the association of pericardial effusion with DOACs, vitamin K antagonists, warfarin was used exclusively, or no oral anticoagulation within the Santa Clara Valley Healthcare Enterprise, California. And a report of all the PEF cases in patients more than 18 years of age between January 1st, 2013 to May 10th, 2023 was generated. And patients were divided into 3 groups: patients on DOAC, patients on warfarin, and patients who did not receive any DOAC or any anticoagulation. And by 2D echocardiography, as we all know, pericardial effusion is semi-quantitatively classified by the size of the echo free space between the parietal and visceral pericardium and diastole as small, moderate, or large. So in this present study, it was slightly modified based on institutional practice. Small pericardial effusion was defined as less than 5 mm, that is the thickness between the visceral and the parietal pericardium. Small to moderate as 5 to 10 mm in thickness, moderate as 10 to 15 mm in thickness, moderately large 15 to 20 mm, and large was defined as the free space between the visceral and the parietal pericardium as more than 20 mm. There were exclusion criteria which were patients less than 18 years of age having small pericardial effusion. So the patients having less than 5 mm of pericardial effusion were excluded. Patients who experience acute or chronic thoracic aortic dissection. Patients within 13 days of the following events like surgical or percutaneous cardiac valve repair or replacement, including TAVI and mitral clip procedures, bypass surgery or other cardiothoracic surgeries, acute MI or traumatic injury to the chest. And confirmed cases of tubercular pericarditis were also excluded. And cardiac implantable electronic devices cases, including permanent pacemakers and implantable cardioverter defibrillator, were excluded only if confirmed device perforation. So, annual incidence was calculated by dividing the new cases of pericardial effusion of a given year by the number of patients based on anticoagulation status. And then the annual incidence over the study period of 10 years was averaged to generate the annual incidence per year of each of the groups. And the following data were collected for all the patients with pericardial effusion: age, sex, race or ethnicity, specific DOAC which was used, its dose strength, frequency of administration, duration of therapy before pericardial effusion, and indication, that is the indication of the DOAC like non-valvular AF, venous thromboembolism, pulmonary embolism, intracardiac thrombus or others. And the following underlying risk factors for pericardial effusion are assessed, like history of malignancy, solid or hematological, in remission or undergoing active treatment, renal function, that is creatinine and eGFR at the time of diagnosis, and end-stage renal disease status, body mass index, coronary artery disease, systolic heart failure with LVEF less than 40%, and implantable device implantation within 3 months of pericardial effusion, and usage of the following concurrent medications and then drug-drug interaction with DOACs like antiplatelets, NSAIDs, SSRIs, and SNRIs, and amiodarone. And this was the scoring system that was used to quantify the degree of.
Interestingly, there was no mention of thyroid.
Yes, sir. It has not been mentioned actually anyway.
Sure, paper में भी नहीं लगी.
Yes, sir. The following scoring system was used to quantify the degree of drug-drug interactions. There was 1 point given for DOAC overdosing, 1 point for being a P-glycoprotein inhibitor. I will talk about this in the subsequent slides. 2 points for being a PGP inhibitor as well as a weak cytochrome P450 PA4 inhibitor, and likewise 3 points and 4 points respectively for the other drugs or the other drug-drug interactions. And laboratory data included the following: creatinine, INR, prothrombin time, platelet count, pericardial effusion drainage method like percutaneous pericardiocentesis or surgical pericardial window, and description of fluid, whether it was markedly bloody, serosanguinous, straw colored or turbid. And outcome variables were the size of the pericardial effusion, all-cause mortality, procedures which were done to drain the fluid, and duration of follow-up since the first diagnosis of pericardial effusion until death or last clinical contact. And these are the baseline characteristics of the patients. Here, the patients on DOAC who were prescribed DOAC were significantly, they were elderly, that is, the mean age was 68 years in those patients as compared to 60 who did not receive, as compared to 60 years in the patients who did not receive any anticoagulant, and 64.5 in the warfarin group of patients. No anticoagulant patients also had female preponderance of almost 50%. In the DOAC case, AF was the main indication for anticoagulation, that is, almost 78% of the patients received DOAC due for AF. And the warfarin group had 62.5%, whereas the DOAC group had 50% cases of moderately large to large pericardial effusion. Then amiodarone, concurrent amiodarone usage was found in 20% of the cases of those taking direct oral anticoagulants. Then all the cases of the patients taking warfarin developed bloody or markedly bloody, that is hemorrhagic pericardial fluid, and 90% of the patients taking DOACs developed the same. And at a follow-up period of 419 days, roughly 40% in the DOAC and no anticoagulant case, and 50% in the warfarin group died due to any cause.
So how will you decide this blood and pericardial effusion? How much RBCs would be there per high power field?
So these are the results. Coming to the results, there were around 4,310 cases of pericardial effusion of any size that were identified in the 10-year study period. And after excluding trivial or small pericardial effusion and applying the other exclusion criteria, there were only 456 cases of at least small to moderate or larger pericardial effusion. Of these, 219, roughly 45% cases had moderate effusion, and 25 to 30% cases had large pericardial.
Almost 10% patients had pericardial effusion.
Yes.
Out of 4310 cases.
What
means
is 10%?
significant. એ લોકો પેલા લોકોને હશે તો ખરું જ.
10% cases had pericarditis.
90% ને સ્મોલ હતું એ બધા નીકળી ગયા 4310 માંથી ખાલી 456 જ છે જેને સ્મોલ મોડરેટ થી વધારે છે.
Whether they had bleeding elsewhere. Now, why the only pericardial hemorrhagic effusion and no other bleeding elsewhere? Was there any bleeding elsewhere in the body?
That has not been mentioned in the article.
Why only pericardial?
So that association, they are studying.
Any particular, my point is why the dogs causing pericardial hemorrhagic effusion? Was there any specificity? Why whether pericardium had some specific reason for dogs to cause bleeding? My point.
That question was not part of study.
They might have selected that patient only.
એટલે એ સ્ટડી નહીં કર્યા હોય એટલું જ બાકી એમ મેન્શન નહીં કર્યું આપણે જે થયું બી હોઈ શકે.
Yes. And there were 50 patients who on DOAX who developed pericardial effusion. 16 warfarin, 16 patients who received warfarin developed pericardial effusion, and 390 out of the 456 who were on no anticoagulation. And average annual incidence of pericardial effusion was highest in the warfarin cases, followed by DOAX, and then the ones who did not receive any anticoagulation. And
એક મિનિટ ફરી બોલો પર્સન્ટેજ તમે ઉલટા બોલ્યા એવું લાગ્યું.
ના બરાબર છે વોરફેરિંગ ગ્રુપમાં હાઈએસ્ટ છે પછી પેલામાં
વાંચો એ લાઈન આપી.
okay, sorry, yes sir.
Yes.
DOAX ma highest હતું, followed by warfarin, and then the ones who did not receive any oral anticoagulation. And just for statistical analysis, small to moderate and moderate were grouped together, and moderately large and large pericardial effusion patients were grouped together. And these are the characteristics of the 50 patients on DOAX with pericardial effusion. Out of these, 35 were on apixaban, 12 on rivaroxaban, and 3 on dabigatran. Edoxaban was not prescribed in any of the cases. 25% developed moderately large to large, and 25 developed small to
It
moderate.
wasn't prescribed or જેને pericardial effusion થયું એને એ નહોતી ચાલી.
In the cases who developed this effusion.
ઓકે એમને ચાલતી નહોતી. પ્રિસ્ક્રાઇબ તો હતી બરાબર.
And there were some cases of overdosing reported in each of the cases of DOAX, each of the case, roughly around 8 to 10% in each group, even for rivaroxaban, except for dabigatran patients who all of them were appropriately dosed. And these, out of the 25 patients who had moderately large to large, 21 patients underwent drainage, 13 underwent pericardiocentesis only, 7 had to be given a surgical pericardial window, and both procedures were followed for one patient. And 10 of the 50 of these 50 cases, 10 of the cases had concurrent amiodarone usage. And 4 of the DOAC pericardial effusion patients received reversal agents also. And 11 of the 16 warfarin group patients, there were 11 cases where anticoagulation was pharmacologically reversed.
So this is just for blood stain pericardial effusion or other bleeding were also there. હવે સરનો question
Yes,
છે.
sir. That's correct. I mean, they have not mentioned any about
So
any.
that should mean કે ખાલી blood stain pericardial effusion માટે એ લોકો
That
reverse
is
કરે.
correct, yes.
Okay.
So coming to PGP and CYP3A4, P-glycoprotein is an efflux transporter protein mainly in the gut, liver, kidney, and blood-brain barrier. It pumps drugs out of cells, reducing their absorption and increasing elimination. And likewise, CYP3A4 is a major drug metabolizing enzyme in the liver and intestine. Many drugs are substrate for both PGP and CYP3A4. So if these PGP and CYP3A4 are inhibited, drug levels will rise and patients are prone to develop toxicity. Patients are at a risk of toxicity. So, DOAC interactions with PGP and CYP3A4 inhibitors. Apixaban and rivaroxaban are both dual substrates of both PGP and CYP3A4, and effect of the inhibitors of these substrate depends on both pathways. So, a concurrent administration of drugs like verapamil and quinidine will lead to mild increase in the drug levels of these anticoagulants, and likewise dilzem and cyclosporine are weak CYP3A4 inhibitors. These will also result in mild increase in exposure. These are safe, but one has to monitor renal impairment and especially the elderly patients as well. Clarithromycin, erythromycin, fluconazole are moderate CYP3A4 inhibitors, also being PGP4 inhibitors. These will lead to moderate increase in the blood concentration of apixaban and rivaroxaban. So these drugs are to be used with caution, and one can also consider dose reduction if these drugs are concurrently administered with apixaban and rivaroxaban.
In Indian setup, is there any viral infection? People take erythromycin of their own.
Yes.
Plus, erythromycin तो फटाक ले लेंगे बस, स्टोर मत.
या लीधा પછી આપણને કહે
हाँ.
प्रतिक्रिया પછી એ કહે નથી મળતું લખી ચાલે છે.
And drugs like ketoconazole, itraconazole, ritonavir are strong CYP3A4 inhibitors. These lead to markedly increased levels 2 to 3 times of apixaban and rivaroxaban. So these are contraindicated with these anticoagulants. And dabigatran is a substrate of PGP only and not CYP3A4. So here verapamil, amiodarone and quinidine, these can increase dabigatran levels, and these are contraindicated only if creatinine clearance is less than 30 ml per minute in the patients. And CYP3A4 inhibition is not relevant here, only PGP interaction matters in case of dabigatran. And edoxaban is a substrate of PGP. It has minimal CYP3A4 metabolism. So here also the CYP3A4 inhibition is less relevant compared to PGP. So again here verapamil, quinidine and amiodarone will increase edoxaban levels, and dose reduction here is often required. This is what I mentioned. So with apixaban, rivaroxaban, strong dual inhibitors like ketoconazole, ritonavir, and even the moderate inhibitors of CYP3A4 like erythromycin are to be avoided or used with caution. And in case of dabigatran and edoxaban, focus is to be given to PGP inhibitors only. CYP3A4 here in these is irrelevant. And for oral anticoagulants, always renal function is to be checked because if kidneys are impaired, renal function is to be checked in DOAC's dosage as well. And if kidneys are impaired, PGP inhibition also has a much larger effect. So in this study, factors like age, sex, BMI, renal function, history of coronary artery disease, history of recent cardiac implantable devices, concurrent use of SSRI, SNRI or NSAIDs as well as hematological malignancy were not found to be significant. And the following variables were found to increase the odds of developing moderately large to large pericardial effusion: DOACs, amiodarone usage and solid tumor, along with, as well as warfarin. Heart failure with reduced ejection fraction
તો
with
તમે જે એન્ઝાઇમ્સ બતાવ્યા એમાં એમ્યોડેરન તો કોઈ ઇન્ટરેક્શન ના બતાવ્યું, ખાલી ઇન્ક્રીઝ કરે છે એટલું જ બતાવ્યું. શું રીઝન છે ઇન્ક્રીઝ કરવાનું?
amiodarone will increase the level of drug.
Via which enzyme?
It will inhibit CYP and PGP.
વાયુ મારું ધ્યાન નહોતું આવ્યું કે
Yes, sir. I'm good.
પાછળની
Yes,
સ્લાઇડમાં
sir. PGP.
very right.
બતાવો ને મને મારું ધ્યાન ના આવ્યું. અચ્છા ઓકે સોરી સર.
Heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, that is EF less than 40%. These patients somehow afforded lower risk of developing moderately large to large pericardial effusion. And these factors were significant for all cause mortality: age, male sex, low BMI, presence of solid tumor, and GFR of less than 60 ml per minute per meter square, 1.73 meter square. So, with increasing DOAC use, pericardial effusion and sometimes cardiac tamponade have been reported in association with all the 4 currently marketed DOACs. The incidence, severity and predisposing factors associated with PET development in DOAC users have not been well characterized by previous case reports and small case series. In this single center study, the DOAC patients, as I mentioned in the previous slides, they were significantly older, had higher rate of concurrent amiodarone use. They had more recent implantable devices, and their pericardial effusion was predominantly hemorrhage. These are the risk factors and HF, heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, that I already mentioned. And all-cause mortality was not different based on either the pericardial effusion size or anticoagulation status. Almost 40 to 45% in every case, as I mentioned in the table, they all at 419 days of follow-up died due to any cause. And here comes this statistic that patients on directly acting oral anticoagulants, their average annual incidence was almost 69 times higher than those who did not receive any anticoagulation. So, with the increasing use of DOACs over vitamin K antagonists, it is expected that more cases of pericardial effusion will emerge. This drives the need for urgent identification of predisposing factors and strategies to minimize its occurrence. And analysis also showed that being on either DOAC or warfarin with higher PTINR ratio increased the risk of having moderately large to large pericardial effusion. And consistent with previous reporting, this was the finding that patients with solid tumor had an increased risk of developing this moderately large to large pericardial effusion by 110% when compared to those without cancer history. And this is the possible explanation that DOAC use may precipitate or exacerbate neoplastic pericardial disease and or complex pharmacodynamic drug-drug interactions in the subgroup of cancer patients. And surveillance with periodic echocardiogram in this group of patients may be warranted after DOAC initiation to monitor for occurrence of significant associated pericardial effusion. And with congestive heart failure, transorbitative pericardial effusion is known to occur. So, as this is one proposed theory that lower systolic LV functions protective effect, this will lead patients to have frequent medical contacts, leading to increased likelihood of pericardial effusion detection and treatment. And this finding in these group of patients that the association was not very significant with developing moderately large to large effusion, it needs to be interpreted with caution, as the size occurring in the setting of this should be taken as a sign of clinical decompensation given the worsened overall prognosis and increased risk of mortality. And amiodarone and DOAC drug-drug interaction, it just represents a small component of the multi-drug interactions that alter DOAC metabolism and serum levels. And prior studies have shown that polypharmacy was very common among DOAC users, approximately 2/3 of whom, especially the elderly, took more than 5 drugs concurrently, including diltiazem, digoxin and statins, which are common cardiac medications with PGP and or serum Advantages of DOACs over vitamin K antagonists is that they do not require routine drug level monitoring. There is no evidence-based recommendation of drug concentration measurement, coagulation tests, acid standardization, or therapeutic range target for DOACs. Coming to the limitations of the study, though it was the largest single center case series, the sample size was quite small, and this warrants a need for having a prospective larger multi-center registry that would be useful to validate the findings. And patient population, prescribing patterns and management strategies of these patients, they were less prone to practice variations as this was at a single center. Therefore, these were less prone to practice variations. So again, multi-center studies are required to warrant the findings of this study. And also, duration and compliance of DOAC use were incomplete, hence not reported. This may strengthen or weaken the association between DOAC use and pericardial effusion. So to conclude, this is what I mentioned, that concurrent amiodarone use, having an active solid tumor, DOAC use, and also warfarin, that is oral vitamin K antagonist use, increase the odds of developing moderately large to large pericardial effusion. And then there needs to be a clinical algorithm that is to be developed for surveillance echocardiogram and DOAC drug monitoring for patients at high risk for developing DOAC associated pericardial effusion.
બોક્સ રિગ્રેશન એનાલિસિસ નથી કર્યું, સ્ટેટિસ્ટિક્સ કશું આવ્યું નહીં.